On my birthday, my mom sent a text. "You're just a burden. Don't come home again." I stared at it for a long time. Not in shock but in recognition. Because when someone finally says what they've always shown you, it doesn't sting. It just confirms what you already knew. Hi everyone. My name is Jessa Ray, and if you think this story ends with a dramatic slap or a sappy family reunion, it doesn't. It ends with silence. And a locked gate. See, some birthdays come with cake and candles. Mine came with exile. The text arrived just after noon. I was at work. Lunch break, barely eating. My hands were still stained from prepping syringes for the nursing ward. Buzzed, I read it, and for a moment, nothing moved. Then I exhaled, a breath that felt years overdue. And I replied with a single word. Okay. But okay didn't mean what she thought. It didn't mean I'd cry. It didn't mean I'd try harder. It didn't mean I'd explain again how I'd been paying for her medication deliveries. Or how Dad's specialist only picked up because I was listed as proxy. It meant I moved. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. That night I logged into the health portal. I canceled the home nurse I'd hired. Paused the auto-pay for their groceries. Took my name off every document that made me responsible. I didn't scream. I didn't slam anything. I just stepped away. Like you do when you finally accept that someone standing in a burning house won't stop tossing gasoline. No backup plan. No guilt. Just clean detachment. And in that silence, the kind only betrayal leaves behind, I made myself tea. I watched the steam rise in my tiny apartment window. And I realized, maybe this birthday I was finally giving myself the gift. The gift of letting them face the consequences. Alone. But I had no idea just how quickly karma would arrive. Or how messy silence could sound. At 6:12 a.m. my phone lit up. Aunt Delia. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since she told me, family is hard. Just be the bigger person. Her message read, "Your dad collapsed. They're alone. No one's answering." I stared at the screen, blinking once. Twice. Then I locked it. Placed the phone face down. And poured more hot water over my tea leaves. Not because I didn't care. But because I'd cared so much for so long that I was hollow now. You can only run into a burning house so many times before you realize. They never wanted saving. They just wanted someone to blame when it all turned to ash. Dad's the quieter one. The shadow behind my mother's insults. But silence is its own kind of cruelty. Especially when you're the daughter they forget to feed, but expect to clean their wounds when they bleed. The calls came in waves after that. Missed ones. Voicemails. Even messages from people I didn't recognize. "Hi, I'm Cheryl from across the street. They said you're the daughter? Your mom's asking for help. She says no one will come. Can you at least send someone? Please." I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in the quiet and listened to the rain tick against my windows. Every drop felt like a second I'd wasted trying to earn their love. And now I was reclaiming time. By noon I had 7 unread texts. By sunset they were asking strangers to knock. Because when you cut off the daughter they called a burden, you also cut off the only person who was holding the roof up. I used to think love meant sacrifice. That maybe if I just gave enough I'd finally be seen. But some people don't want love. They want control. And I had quietly taken mine back. With every service cancelled, every medical password reset, I had rewritten the story they thought they controlled. They wanted me gone. Now they were living with that wish. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. And that freedom, it was just beginning to echo through every empty hallway they used to keep me in. By evening, the neighbor's Facebook post went up. A blurry photo of my parents sitting outside on plastic lawn chairs, a single blanket draped over Dad's knees. Caption read, "Anyone know how to help this elderly couple? They seem confused and alone." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I wanted to gloat, but because the comments said everything I never had to. Where's their daughter? Why aren't their kids helping? This is so sad. I almost typed something. Almost. But I'd said enough in my silence. And sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to let people tell your story for you. "Hi, I'm the daughter. The one they told was dramatic when she said she was hurting. The one they called ungrateful when she begged them to see her. The one they erased from family photos and still asked for money 2 days later. I used to think I was weak for wanting their love. But now I know. I was just loyal to people who only loved the version of me that served them. My mom was always good at turning pain into performance, crying at the right time, playing the victim while holding the knife. I remember once when I was 13 I accidentally dropped a teacup. She made me write an apology letter to herself. Told me I needed to understand what it meant to be sorry. I've been saying sorry ever since. For being tired. For crying. For not coming home enough. For not fixing their marriage. For not being a son. But this time, they were the ones writing the script. And the world was watching. A stranger from the church group offered them soup. Someone from the pharmacy offered to check in. But no one, not one person, could sign medical forms, authorize prescriptions, or reinstate their home nurse. Only I could do that. And I didn't. Because this wasn't revenge. It was release. I had become their crutch. And they kicked me while leaning on me. Now they were falling. And I was finally standing. And with every hour that passed, I felt something I'd never felt in that house. Peace. That night I made dinner for myself. A real dinner. Lemon roasted chicken, steamed rice, and garlic spinach. Hot plated, not eaten standing by the sink. I sat. I lit a candle. I chewed slowly. Because when you grow up in chaos, peace feels suspicious. Like it might turn on you. Like someone might yank the plate away mid-bite and say, "This isn't for you." But no one did. Because I finally understood. Peace wasn't a gift they could give me. It was a right I had to take back. They were still out there, still unraveling. I knew it because Aunt Delia tried again. Another message. This one short, sharp. "This isn't you. Don't be cruel. Your dad needs help." I didn't reply. Because she never sent messages when they were cruel to me. Never stepped in when I was 17 crying quietly in the driveway, bags packed after my mother said, "Go find someone else to ruin." They all watched. Family gatherings, birthdays, graduations. They watched her cut me open with words, and then compliment the way she kept her kids in line. So no, I wasn't being cruel. I was being done. And then, as if the universe had waited for me to be sure, a call came in from the hospital. Blocked number. I didn't answer. But the voicemail played. "Hi, this is St. Luke's. We have a patient, Ronald Ray, listed as non-responsive, no medical proxy on file. We're looking for next of kin. Please call us back." I closed the message. And in the quiet that followed, I sat on the floor. Just sat. Back against the wall. No music. No distractions. And for the first time in years I let myself feel what they never let me say out loud. I was a daughter. A good one. One who loved deeply. But I was never theirs. Not really. They didn't raise a daughter. They raised a caretaker. Until she realized her name wasn't on the will but was on every bill. And now their reality had come due. And I wasn't footing the cost. Not anymore. The hospital called again. Twice. Then the messages stopped. By then the group chat, yes, the family group chat I'd been removed from months ago, had lit up. Screenshots reached me anyway. Cousin Layla, of course. She always had a conscience, just never enough to speak up when it mattered. "Does anyone know where Jessa is? Someone needs to get her back. This is her responsibility." Her responsibility. Like I was a service. Like I was furniture that went missing and needed returning. I laughed. Soft, dry, bitter. Because now they were scrambling. Trying to reverse years of neglect with 3 lines of panic and blame. But I wasn't theirs to summon anymore. Hi. Still me. Jessa Ray. The burden who paid their electric bill for 2 years without ever being thanked. The failure who kept Dad's diabetes managed, who researched every medication interaction, who memorized his pharmacy schedule when Mom forgot, then got yelled at for talking back. I wasn't angry anymore. Just clear. They didn't miss me. They missed the labor. The cushion. The unpaid therapist. The quiet punching bag. So when Layla finally called, voice shaking, breath frantic, I picked up. Not for them. For me. To hear it. "Jessa, please, they're falling apart. Your mom's crying. Your dad, he's not waking up right. They need you." I waited. Let her sit in the echo of that. Then said softly, "No, they don't. They need accountability. No yelling. No swearing. Just the stillness of a boundary fully enforced." Later that night I looked at a photo I'd taken a year ago. Dad in his chair. Mom fake smiling beside him. And me in the background holding a tray, head turned, forgotten. They never saw me in that photo. Never framed it. But I saw it now. I was the background for their lives. And finally I'd stepped out of the frame. Let them post. Let them plead. Let them spin the story however they wanted. I had one truth. And I was finally living in it. By morning the story changed. Now I was unstable. Estranged. Unreachable. The same people who'd spent years calling me too sensitive were suddenly rewriting me as a ghost. As if I'd vanished out of nowhere. Instead of being pushed, step by silent step, out the door. I watched it unfold like a play I'd seen 1,000 times. Same script. New stage. Different audience. They told the neighbors I'd gone off the rails. Told the church group I was dealing with things. Told the family I was angry, bitter, always difficult. But the truth was simpler. I had simply stopped. Stopped showing up. Stopped explaining. Stopped rescuing people who let me drown so they could breathe easier. And without me, the cracks in their perfect story started to show. Aunt Delia's final message came that afternoon. You don't have to forgive. Just come. He might not make it through the weekend. I didn't answer. Because if I walked back into that hospital room, she'd see it in my eyes. I had nothing left to give. Not anger. Not comfort. Not closure. You see, forgiveness doesn't always mean returning. Sometimes, it means releasing the version of yourself that needed their love to feel whole. And I had done that. But I did one thing. One small thing. I called the hospital quietly. Confirmed they had no medical proxy. Then transferred it to the state. Let the system take it. Let the state decide. Let the consequences play out without me patching the holes. Because I had become their plan B. The invisible net beneath their carelessness. And they had cut the ropes assuming I'd always catch them. But I was gone. Not missing. Not dead. Not lost. Gone. By choice. And in that still bitter air, I felt something colder than grief. But stronger than relief. Power. The first headline hit a small local paper. Elderly man hospitalized without family support. Gaps in home care raise questions. No names. No photos. But the story was unmistakably ours. By the time it reached the community newsletter, the wording had changed. Daughter abandons parents during medical crisis? And just like that, I became a villain in a tale I never asked to be part of. But what they didn't know was that I had receipts. Years of them. I opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't touched in months. Labeled, Mom Proof. Screenshots. Bank transfers. Messages. Insurance authorizations. A timeline. Every dollar I paid for her blood pressure medication. Every appointment I booked for Dad. Every time they texted, "We'll pay you back." And never did. And every cruel message. From "Don't come back if you can't do better," to the birthday text that started all of this. "You're just a burden." I didn't post it. Not yet. I didn't need to. Because the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to sit still long enough for the noise to collapse. And it did. A neighbor called me. Her voice was soft, embarrassed. I'm so sorry, Jessa. I didn't know everything. I brought your dad some food. Your mom, she's different now. Quiet. Small. I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. But that night I got one final message. From my mother. You win. Are you happy now? I read it twice. Laughed once. Then replied. No one wins when a house burns down. But I stopped standing in the flames. That's all. Because it was never about winning. It was about ending. Ending the cycle. Ending the guilt. Ending the belief that I had to break myself to build them up. And now, in the ashes of their own making, they were finally seeing the shape of the daughter. They tried so hard not to see. I never blocked her. Not because I wanted to keep the door open, but because I wanted her to see the silence stay. And she did. For weeks. Message after message. First angry. Then pitiful. Then quiet. Until one day nothing came. And that was the loudest sound of all. I never walked back into their house. But I drove past it once. Just once. Peeling paint. Overgrown grass. No nurse van in the driveway. No grocery box at the door. It looked hollow. Like a story with no plot. Like the actors had all forgotten their lines. And that's exactly what it was. They had built their identity on mine. On my loyalty. On the assumption I'd never leave. That I'd always clean up after the emotional mess they denied making. But I had rewritten the ending. And in that ending I didn't need their apology. I didn't need them to learn. I didn't even need them to suffer. I just needed them to finally face themselves. And now they had. Because when your caretaker disappears, not in anger but in clarity, you begin to see all the things she held up. All the damage you hid behind her soft heart. They were no longer protected by my silence. No longer buffered by my effort. No longer covered by my name on the delivery slips and prescription pads. They were simply alone. Exactly as they chose. So on my next birthday I did something different. I baked a small cake. Lit a single candle. Sat in my own apartment surrounded by no one but peace. And I whispered to myself, not as a broken daughter, but as a whole woman. Happy birthday, Jessa. You made it. No revenge. No reckoning. Just a reckoning within. Because sometimes the sweetest justice is walking away so far. They can't rewrite your story anymore. And when they knock on your silence and realize you're not coming back, that's when the truth finally echoes.